Hey everybody. I'd like to make this video because, I kind of like giving updates on my mental health and giving stories and stuff. And if you're new here, hello, my name is Austin or Mr. Wobbles. Some of you know that I like to talk about stuff like this. Some of you may be new, and I just like to preface this entire thing by saying I am not a medical professional. I have no idea if this is going to work for you. I'm just going to give you my experience so far, and that experience is I have been on Vyvanse for about a week. And as someone who has had ADHD his entire life, I was diagnosed in 9, and I grew up taking Concerta. And prior to taking Concerta and finding a regimen that worked from like 11 to 18 for 2 years, I was on Strattera, Ritalin, Adderall IR, XR. I was on like SSRIs. They tried so much with me to calm me down because I was such a problem child. And it took a while. And I found something that really worked. And then tragically, this is kind of a sad point in my life. I moved states and I was unable to receive health care in the state that I was in for about a year or two, just due to residency issues and like where I was. And they didn't really consider like where I lived. It wasn't like they didn't help me with like psychiatry and psychology and all that stuff was very hard to get into without insurance. So um, it was rough. And I went from going to college, being in high school, taking a regimen and like having a really good schedule to going to college and gaining 50 pounds because I got off Concerta and my schedule being thrown all over the place and my emotions just completely being all over the place. And like my satiation for food and things like that became so strong and I had no impulse control. It was just a scary moment where I went from like kind of like feeling like I was myself and I had everything going for me to almost having to like relearn all of my adult skills at 18. And it really sucked. And ever since then, I've had really, really bad issues sleeping. I have issues with focus, like on adult things. And how I would describe adult ADHD for me is like I have this constant anxiety over little things that I know I need to get done. But if I don't do them, I'm risking like issues in my life. And instead of doing those things and dealing with the anxiety of getting over it, I go and I do a million different things. And then that creates more anxiety. And to everybody else, it looks like I'm insane. But that's just how, and that's something that I've realized very recently, how I deal with, being really, really ADHD and not finding like if I don't get serotonin out of a goal or a thing that I'm doing, I then can't do it as efficiently as I want to, or I put it off really badly. And it's miserable. And that has kind of led into the past 10 years of my life being like, I'm not good at dieting. I'm not good at working out. I'm not good at relationships, with friends and stuff as much as I want to be. I'm not good at like being consistent with pretty much anything. I'm not good at like, waking up early and kind of having a full day every day and stuff like that. And it's gotten to a point where when I was like 26, 27, I'm 28, where I really like had to take a step back and realize like what the fuck am I going to do about this? And every time that I would get really bad, I made the mistake of thinking that if I get back on Adderall, if I get back on Concerta, that it will save my life. And I just want to tell people with ADHD out there, like, as much as it definitely can help, the problem when you start taking Adderall, Concerta, when you're not actively trying to actually like create a regimen and be a normal human being, is that it then intensifies the feeling like those things that cause anxiety. It intensifies your insomnia. It intensifies the matter of fact that you could stay up till 7 a.m. and then not have to deal with anyone for an entire day. It intensifies those things. So then instead of like helping you, you're actually using it to not help you. And I genuinely think like working out and eating pretty good if you can, whenever you can, and kind of taking care of yourself and being surrounded by people and like trying to see people and keep your friendships is a big way to feel good. ADHD, depression, anxiety, whatever it is that you have, it's a big part of like just feeling good about yourself, and you have to strive for that, man. And this is the first time that I've actively been on a schedule. Like I'm being very proactive in taking Vyvanse, and I'll tell you why I'm taking Vyvanse and how I feel about it. But first, let me tell you about Adderall. So the problem with Adderall for me is that whenever I take Adderall, I'm prescribed XR, which is, extended release. It lasts, 10, 15 hours. And then I take IR, which is instant release. Now, for me, whenever I take XR, I have very, 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 very strong highs and lows, which means that it could be like 4 hours into it and I have a very strong low, a crash. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to replace this crash with more energy. So I'll take IR. Then you take IR, and then all of a sudden you have a double high, which is even crazier, right? And then that's like how usually Adderall becomes abused, is that you start to take it so much that it comes to a point where you're like up for 20 hours and you're like, well, I'm still kind of fucked up, so I'm going to keep going, whatever. And that's how, for me, when I was in really, hectic situations where I was relying on Adderall to like do something or get something done, or, you know, try to stay up for like a appointment that was too early for me now because I stayed up too late. That became a very big source of abusing Adderall for me. And I did that probably on and off for years, and I would get off it and then I would gain weight, and, my life would be kind of all over the place again, and I had to pick it all up and try again. And this is the first time in my life that, like, instead of trying to rely on a pill, I'm using a pill in conjunction with things that I'm doing that's good for myself. So now we come to Vyvanse. How I would describe Vyvanse, and again, everybody's pill and everybody's situation is completely different. So this is just my situation. Don't think it's going to work like this for you. I'm just talking about me. Vyvanse for me feels like I am like tuned in every single time I take it. Um, my biggest issues lately, and this is what's been happening with me, is I'm on this great schedule, and I'm feeling pretty good, and I'm trying to work and I'm trying to do all this stuff. And then it comes to a point where it's like my focus is like 3 out of 10, even though I'm like doing everything correctly. So this is like the last puzzle piece that I had to fill in. And it kind of feels like I'm operating at like the full extent of what I want to be operating at. Now, how I describe Vyvanse is like there's no highs and lows. It's just like an equilibrium level of focus. It's not too much. It's not too little. And it feels amazing. I just wanted to make this video because I think that, for a lot of people out there, and I urge you, seek therapy, even if you don't think you have trauma, even if you don't think that like, you know, it's lame or something. Every dude should go to therapy, dog. Don't be your dad, be you. Don't let the issues of your parenting and your bullying and stuff like that become an issue that then you take into your adult life and you throw it on others. It's just important to deal with your trauma, and it's not as hard as you think it is to find that stuff. There's plenty of resources online, and there's plenty of ways to find people and vet therapists and vet psychiatrists and stuff like that. So I just really want people to know that, I think being proactive about your mental health, like seeking it when you're in your best moments, is so much stronger than you realize. And, you don't want to wait until you have a low in your life or you fall into a depression to have that regiment that's a safety net for you be created. And yeah, I thought that I would wake up and make this video and talk about that and my experience with Vyvanse. And I'm just excited. I think that if you've watched this channel for a long time, or if you've watched me for a long time, like 4 to 5 years ago, man, I was so aggressive and anxiety ridden, and I didn't have any support structure. And I've been able to use the financing that I make off YouTube and, the kind of like the freedom of this job to then push it back into myself and try to give myself a better quality of life rather than being like an absolutely miserable, hate-filled person that has a negative outlook on anything. And breaking out of a negative cycle is the hardest thing on earth. And if you're in one right now, dude, trust me, like there's going to come a point where you're going to be like, man, I just want to be happy. Man, I just want to be chilling. You're going to have that moment. It might not happen now. There's hope for it though. And you just got to realize that. And I think a lot of people think that like being cynical is all that they have to do all the time. And that's like their only personality trait. And although it's dope, you have to realize that you don't want to be someone that sucks the energy out of a room. You want to be someone that adds to a social situation and adds to people's enhancement of their life because you're there. And it takes time, man. And that's just something that I needed to realize. And I'm very happy that I've taken this time off of YouTube and I kind of just spent time with family members, and I really let myself process a lot of things rather than trying to numb everything, all my shit that's in my head all the time. And it was just cool. I'm excited for the future. I hope maybe I could spread some of this energy to some of the lovely people that watch me. And if you have ADHD and you're not treating it and you're wondering why, things are so hard, I can assure you, if you try to keep your schedule set and you try to live your life to the fullest, and then you add, medication to allow you to have that focus that may still not be there, and to have that ability to have a little bit of executive function, it'll really help you with the quality of your life. And, you know, whatever you can do, if you genuinely think you have ADHD, or if you feel like you have depression, clinical depression is its whole other thing, man. And, having severe anxiety, which most people are like, you don't have anxiety. That's my favorite thing, is like when I tell people I have anxiety and they're like, bro, you're the most extroverted person I know. I'm like, yes, out of out of being scared, out of being afraid. So I just make myself look like a fool. You know what I mean, dog? Like that's how anxiety works for me. I just turn it into a superpower. But sometimes you got to realize that turning something into a superpower has detrimental effects on you. And yeah, man. So I hope you guys, let me know what you think. Let's talk in the comments. I just wanted to make this video, and yeah, farewell.